From the Smart Force Student Summit powered by AMT, we are at the International Manufacturing Technology Show in Chicago, Illinois. My name is Matt Kirkner. I am your host for the Tech Ed Podcast. And this show, the largest industrial trade show in the Western Hemisphere, is where creators, builders, sellers, and drivers of manufacturing technology come to connect and be inspired. And it is a great group, by the way, of creators, builders, sellers, and drivers that are here all week, over 1 million attendees here at IMTS. But as we are going to learn today, we need to make that group of those creators, builders, sellers, and drivers of this technology broader. We need to cast a wider umbrella, bring more and more individuals from all walks of life into the great world of advanced manufacturing. And we are talking today with somebody who has made that effort her mission. Her name is Meaghan Ziemba. She is the host of Mavens of Manufacturing. Meaghan, from one podcast host to another, welcome to the Tech Ed Podcast.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. There's just so much energy here, so many people, meeting so many incredible people, yourself included, and it's just really a pleasure to have you on and to talk about all this great work that you're doing with Mavens of Manufacturing. Tell our audience, what's the show about and what's your mission and vision?
Yeah, so Mavens of Manufacturing is a live video broadcast series that I do every week on Friday at 11:30 Central Time. And it focuses on the women who are in manufacturing and engineering and sharing their stories. And it doesn't focus on one group. It's actually women from the shop floor all the way to the C-suite. I've also interviewed students from different universities who are going into engineering or manufacturing, and a couple of apprenticeships as well. So it just talks about their stories and hopes to inspire the next generation and start closing all of the gaps that exist within the sector right now.
And you're coming right out of the blocks with a great point, and that is that when we think about careers in manufacturing, a lot of times maybe for people who are less familiar with that space, the first thing that comes to mind is working on a production line, maybe being a technician, being manufacturing supervisor, all great career pathways. But as you know as well as I do, that is not what manufacturing is limited to. So I know you spent time on the marketing side.
Yeah.
To your point, you could be an executive. There's all kinds of opportunities on the business development and sales side, research and development, engineering, just a whole host of career opportunities. And I know you do a great job of exploring that every single week. You said Fridays at 11:30, right?
Yep, 11:30 Central Time.
So you're how long into this?
So I started this 2 years ago.
Okay.
Initially, I started a company called Z Inc. Solutions. I'm a tech writer, so I do tech writing for industrial manufacturers.
Sure.
And then right when the pandemic hit, a lot of people started their own podcasts.
Right.
And I noticed that it was a lot of guys. And I would suggest women that I knew back in my trade publication days. I'm like, hey, you should invite her. She has a lot of great insights. Yeah, we'll get a hold of her. And they never would get a hold of the person. So I was like, well, screw it. I'll just start Mavens of Manufacturing. And I didn't know where it was going to go or how fast it was going to grow. I just made an announcement on LinkedIn, and I had like 30 women contact me and said, yeah, I want to share my story. So it was really cool that so many people were proactive in reaching out to me and accepting, yeah, let's do this. And it's just been going and going and growing. So
yeah, it's a mission that's important to me. As I think a lot of folks know, I spent a good part of my career in manufacturing, and you know, it was actually an effort that we had, a concerted effort to draw more women into that career field. And one of the things, and sometimes people are offended when I say this, but like I had a fabrication operation we had a plant in Wisconsin, one in Iowa, and one in Indiana, and we employed a lot of welders. And I'm just going to tell you that it was uncanny how much better in so many cases. I think in part because of some of their personality traits, the women were in the weld booth. A lot more patience, a lot more attention to detail. Is a generalization, and I know we're not supposed to do that, but really, your mission is a really, really important mission, and that is drawing more and more women to the world of manufacturing. My wife, by the way, is a master's degree engineer.
That's awesome.
You know, she works with us in one of our businesses and is very passionate about drawing girls and young women into the world of manufacturing and into STEM. So what's the reception been like? You touched on it a little bit. You're almost 2 years into this, and how's it going?
It's going really well. Actually, I feel like I'm suffering from imposter syndrome because there's a lot of great content creators within manufacturing, but there's also a lot of great engineers and manufacturers. So I'm not a subject matter expert by any means, but I am really good at sharing people's stories and getting people excited about what they're doing. Like, that's my skill set. So it's been fantastic to see. Like 2 days ago, I got stopped in a bar that I was at, and they were like, "You're Meaghan the Maven," and I kind of freaked out a little bit, and I was like, "No, I'm not. What are you talking about?" And my friend with me was like, "Why did you lie to them?" And I'm like, "I didn't know what to do. That was so unexpected. Like, I'm not used to people
You're
recognizing me."
right? Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just weird to me, but it's really humbling because there's kids watching me too now. So I feel like I have this responsibility where I don't want to let these kids down.
Right.
So I really want to make connections for them and get them more involved and have them know that, hey, there are people here that want you here. So if you run into any kind of trouble, please reach out. I can connect you with the right person. I can set up a mentorship for you. Like, I want your journey through this to be really fun and easy and comforting so that you don't decide to go somewhere else.
It sounds like it has become personal for you. It is a personal mission. And yeah, certainly don't worry about not being the subject matter expert. I know that you don't. I like to tell people if I know just a little bit more than everybody else, I can be an expert on anything, right? So, or in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king is the other way that we put that. But I think you also make another great point, and that is that it isn't your job necessarily to be an expert on all these technologies and on Industry 4.0 and CNC machining and so on. Your job is to help people just draw them out and tell their stories. And I've got to believe your experience as a technical writer, interviewing people, telling their stories in that genre and that format probably lends itself really well to the work you do.
Absolutely.
And so really, really important and interesting work indeed. I want to talk now just a little bit about some of the messaging. We'll go a little bit deeper on some of the reactions that you're getting. Let's say in 2 years of putting all these episodes together, all the perspectives, all the insights, all the experiences of the women on our show. And now, if you were to come up with one message for our audience, and it's a broad audience, by the way, the Tech Ed Podcast, we pull in a lot of technical educators, STEM educators, industrial employers, workforce solutions folks, from really every aspect and every space across the economic compendium. So tell us a little bit about what that message would be. If you've got one message and all the things that you've managed to learn over the course of the last 2 years, Meaghan, what's the message for those folks?
I would tell all of your members in the audience, don't talk about it, be about it. That's something that I shared yesterday on a panel discussion that I was taking part of with Andrew Crow. So it was Andrew Crow moderating it. It was about workforce development. It was myself, Patrick from Factory Fix, Will Healy, who used to be part of Balif, but now he's at Universal Robots.
Right.
And then Eric Sweeney, who's part of the Manufacturing Renaissance here in Chicago. It's a nonprofit organization to help change the culture and bring more Black and brown kids into manufacturing.
Great.
And we were just talking about, what can manufacturers do to be more proactive in attracting the next generation, while at the same time still supporting the current employees, because with all these advancements in technology, we really need to figure out how can we upskill them and keep training them so that they're not falling behind. So my message yesterday was, don't just talk about it, be about it. Put your boots to the ground. Make sure you're connecting with people. Make sure you're educating your communities. Make sure you're connecting with the teachers, because teachers are really underappreciated at the high school level. And then make sure you're doing something at the elementary and middle school levels to get kids exposed to manufacturing and engineering sooner, and kind of cater that curiosity as they get through high school as well too, because it tends to drop off at the elementary level or at the middle school level between 6th and 7th grade. So we want to prevent that from happening, especially with girls.
Absolutely. That observation for our manufacturers is a brilliant one. And I can tell you, I actually wrote, we were talking before the show started, about some of the writing I did for a couple of trade publications. And I drafted and authored an article, I don't know, probably 6 years ago, and it was called "The Skills Gap Is Your Fault," and it was directed at manufacturers, and I could get away with that because I was one, right? So
it's true though. It's kind of got some truth to it,
It totally had truth to it, and I would tell people, look, if you're not investing in bringing people into your plant and showing folks that manufacturing has turned the corner and it's different than it was 50 years ago, and so many of our students are still learning about manufacturing in their history books and thinking that it's Henry Ford, and obviously we've moved way beyond that. If you're not actively engaged with your high school, if you're not helping to support economically and financially moving tech ed forward, if you're not putting authentic industrial applications into the high school to get people genuinely excited about these career choices, the number one influencer of a young person's career choice, their own interests and experiences while they're in middle school and high school, true especially in middle school for girls. We can talk about that in a little bit more detail. But if they're not doing that, they're missing an opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring that next generation of manufacturing technicians, manufacturing talent. But it's also, and you made another good point in that last answer, it's also about promoting learning within the incumbent workforce. And if we look forward, 20 years from now, most of the people working in manufacturing, they're working there today. They're already our employees, and in this world of Industry 4.0, advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, smart technology, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
If we're not training our people already working in manufacturing for those new careers, we're doing a disservice to them, and we're doing a disservice to our companies as well. Agree?
Absolutely. I 100% agree. There's a woman in Eastern Kentucky. Her name is Kathy Walker, and she is part of a technical hub called eCami.
Okay.
And she noticed that the coal miners in Eastern Kentucky were on the way out. So she found a solution on how to upskill them so that they could learn CNC machining, and now they're incorporating robotics in it. So she put her boots to the ground. She found a solution to the problem. And now she's helping, train our current workforce and our future workforce. So it's really exciting to see like women like that in leadership positions making things happen.
Outstanding and exciting indeed. You think about, the old adage, can you teach a dog new tricks? And a lot of times, I think the employees, especially, and as somebody who ran those manufacturing companies for all those years, they see this technology and it's intimidating. I remember, 20 years ago with the advent of things like e-learning and computers, and somebody that had been in a manufacturing environment for 30 years, intimidated by that. And now you look at today, what just the technology on offer here at IMTS this week, and seeing how that is advancing can be intimidating for an incumbent worker. But your example of, okay, I've been a coal miner my whole life, and we've got changes in our economy driving away maybe from fossil fuels and so on. We needing to reskill and upskill and move those dislocated workers into new avenues, and that's exactly what this woman is doing.
So, I mean, as long as you're giving them hope and showing that you believe in them, I think the current workforce is going to be appreciative for those opportunities, because it's only advancing their skill set. So yeah, it's going to take a lot of work, and some of the stuff is probably really hard to learn. But if you just keep providing those affirmations, I think they're going to be more appreciative of the opportunity, because no one wants to lose their job.
Exactly. Nobody wants to lose their job, and we want to make sure that we give them hope. We want to show them that we believe in them, and in turn they will believe in themselves, and that model plays itself over and over and over again. I think one of the greatest things that our manufacturing employers can do and our industrial employers can do for their incumbent workforce and for everybody is to show you can do this. You can learn this. We believe in you. We're going to support you. We know it might not be easy. We know there may be some hiccups along the way, but we are going to have your back, and we are going to help you into this new world of advanced manufacturing. On the topic of having people's back, on the topic of hoping and believing in people, you mentioned a little bit earlier in the discussion, Meaghan, about our K-12 educators in general, not always getting the support that they need from all kinds of stakeholders, and they are going through a really, really rough time. It's been a tough time the last several years to be a teacher, without question. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, so I am from Beloit, Wisconsin, and I'm really connected with the high school that I graduated from, because I really want their VOTech program to be successful. And right now they're at risk, because not only are they losing budgets in terms of supply chain issues, a lot of the teachers are taking money out of their own pockets to pay for the materials, because if they don't have the materials, they can't teach the class.
Right.
And students don't want to be in a classroom not learning, like they're there for a reason. But they also are losing 2 teachers to retirement.
Wow.
One of the teachers actually came out of retirement. He was a CNC machinist, came out of retirement because his friend asked him, we need a CNC machinist teacher. Can you please come out of retirement and teach these kids? So he did for like 5 or 6 years. Well, now he's retiring again.
Right.
They don't have anybody applying for those open positions. If they don't get those teachers back, they're going to lose the classes, which means they're going to lose the budget. And it's really hard to get budget back for things like that once it's allocated somewhere else. So how can we get the community to care about things like that, so that they're getting the funding and the materials that they need to teach these classes? And then what sort of like template can we provide not only the teachers, but also the community and the student counselors to say, hey, this is an interesting field. You don't necessarily have to go to a 4-year college. You can actually do hands-on learning. You can learn as you get paid. How can we help them with that sort of language and get them to recruit more students into these classes too? Because some of the teachers are recruiting them themselves. They're pulling kids out of the hallway and say, you should try this. I think you'd be really good at it. Because most of them aren't looking at it. They're going through the course book. They see a title like CNC machining. If you don't have manufacturing experience, you're not going to know what that means. So you're not going to apply it. So how do we change that language in the course book for them to be like, oh, I connect with that. That's what I want to do, and get them to sign up for the classes.
You know, one of my favorite adages, and it came out of a study that was done by USA Today about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, not too much longer, found that automation engineer is the 4th happiest job in America, believe it or not. And how many of our young people even know that that is a job that they can have?
They don't know what that is. I can guarantee that, because the students that I've been working with, they were like, what is that? We don't know what that is. And I'm like, you're doing things with automation right now. And they're like, no, we're not. And I'm like, you are, though. Like, this is the basic level, and this is how you're going to proceed with it if you keep going. So that's why I wanted to bring students here, because they're able to see technology that they don't have access to in their school, and they're able to talk to the engineers and the manufacturers that are working with it, and they're able to figure out what types of jobs are available to them, so that if they keep going with those classes, they have an opportunity for a really fun, successful career opportunity.
And it's a manufacturing world that is evolving at just a crazy rate. You know, you're from Beloit, Wisconsin. I'm actually pretty familiar with Beloit, with southern Wisconsin. My wife grew up in Janesville, for what it's worth, so probably crosstown rivals at the football games and so on. And she managed to find her way into a STEM career, as we've talked about. But Beloit is a perfect example of kind of and really that whole region, Beloit, Rockford, Janesville, that whole kind of corridor of very traditional manufacturing 30, 40, 50 years ago, now moving into this world of Industry 4.0 and advanced manufacturing. And I've got to believe a big part of your message is, especially to girls and young women, look at this amazing technology you're able to interact with when you're in the world of manufacturing.
Yeah, absolutely. I also tell them, you know, if you're not good at math and science, that's not a big deal.
Right.
And it is a creative place to be. Engineering kind of gets a bad rep for not being a creative, dull career, but it's not. It's more exciting now, especially with robotics, additive manufacturing. There's a lot of great creative design opportunities available. You can work with Autodesk. You can work with SolidWorks. You can work with, you know, lasers and 3D printers. There's just so many different things going on now, and it's going to continue to grow. There's going to be new positions that no one's ever heard of coming out in the next 5 years that we couldn't even imagine. So cybersecurity is a big one. Data analytics is a one that you mentioned. So yeah, I try to give them that full picture as quickly as I can, so that they can be like, wow, I didn't know that. And they're going to do research and kind of fall into it, hopefully, and stick with it.
Fingers crossed that they do. You know, I was never a good classroom learner. I mean, I made my way through high school. I made my way through post-secondary. It was hard. I just wasn't good at sitting in a classroom and like listening. And some people are. I mean, some people can learn that way. That was just never my way of learning. And I can hold my own in a math conversation. I managed to pick up a little bit of science, you know, irrespective of the fact that I wasn't particularly a great STEM student when I was going through my education pathway. So your message to those girls and young women of, look, even if you're not in love with math and if you're not in love with science, you can be in love with manufacturing. You can be in love with these incredible career pathways. I want to turn our sights back to this discussion about K-12, about our teachers and our educators, and I think we would both agree that there are a lot of things that industry and employers can do that maybe we're not doing as well as we should be doing to support our local K-12 districts. On the K-12 side, you get in and out of a lot of schools, I'm sure, and talk with a number of educators. Are we doing enough at that level inside of education to support and promote manufacturing? And if the answer is we can do more, what do you think we should be doing differently?
I don't think we're doing enough. We absolutely can do more. We do need to rethink how we are exposing kids, and in what ways can we alter the curriculum or change it so that it actually applies to what modern day manufacturing is. We're using a lot of dated information, and it's okay to keep that in the history books and go over it, but we really need to start teaching what actual manufacturers are doing in their shops. So one example that I have, there's a gentleman in Wisconsin named Matt Goosey.
I know him well. MRS machine.
So he is doing this program called SOS, Save Our Schools. And it's basically an initiative to give teachers in their VOTEC program some sort of incentive for upskilling their own skills. So they're getting an additional $5,000 added to their salary, their monthly salary, and then they're going to go to where his shop is, learn what he's actually doing on his shop, and then they're going to go back to the school to teach the kids how he's CNC machining some of his parts and other things that he's producing there.
He's just a great advocate.
Yeah, he's a
Augusta,
huge
Wisconsin,
advocate.
I think, if I'm not mistaken.
But he's always known that we were running into this roadblock. So he's like, what can I do? So a great example to be proactive as a manufacturer, but we also need leadership. So we need to get connected with the Chamber of Commerce, the mayors, the government officials. We need more funding. We need to quit having these siloed groups. So like NIMS is great, the NTMA is great, the SME is great. All of these nonprofit organizations are great, but they shouldn't be the only people making these big pushes to educate the communities on what manufacturing and engineering is. There's Manufacturing Day coming up. It's October 7th. The whole month of October is focusing on manufacturing. So all of these different groups of people within communities need to come together and really make it an event so that people know, oh, these are the companies who are manufacturing stuff. These are the opportunities that they're providing. They're doing facility tours. Let's connect them with schools and let's start, changing everything together. It's not going to be an overnight process, but we have to start somewhere, and we need to start it sooner than later because we're in trouble.
We are in trouble, and that is a fabulous message for our industrial employers. And we tell them, look, we get it. I mean, I've run manufacturing companies. I know what it's like to get the call at 2 in the morning that you've got a line down. You've got parts that need to get to the customer. You've got a quality issue. Customer isn't happy. Lead time issues, cash flow issues. I mean, all of these things, personnel issues in the world of manufacturing. And we tell them, of course, you have personnel issues, but a big part of that reason is because you haven't been doing the advocacy that you need to do with education to bring more people into the world of manufacturing. Let's talk more specifically about girls and about women in manufacturing, in as much as that's the focus of all the great work that you're doing, Meaghan. So what makes the effort around manufacturing different if I'm recruiting, let's say, a girl that's going through her high school journey? How is that message different for her than it might be for a boy or a young man?
So traditionally, I think girls were more encouraged to do careers like teaching or something in healthcare or childcare. They weren't encouraged to work with tools. They weren't encouraged to do stuff with math and science. And it kind of has bitten us in the end.
Right.
If you keep repeating that same behavior, it's not going to get better. So now we need to adjust that whole narrative and encourage women in the same way that we're encouraging boys. So how do we do that? At younger ages, encourage like a different type of play. If they want to play with Barbie dolls, great, but add Legos to that.
There you go. Or have Barbie at a CNC machine.
Right, exactly. Do something like that. I played with G.I. Joe and Barbie. Like
Perfect.
They had a perfect marriage growing up. But I think also too, there's a school in Ohio, I read an article. They are actually teaching kindergartners CNC machining, but they're doing it with colors.
Yeah.
So they're adding colors somehow to the machine or the programming and teaching kids, okay, where's the red, where's the blue? So doing things like that. There's a couple authors out now that are writing children's books that are focused on supply chain. So Megan Preston is one. She does a supply chain book on dino eggs.
Cool.
So kids love dinosaurs.
Yeah, right.
But I think we just need to encourage girls not to just play with the traditional girl toys, but also get them involved with building things and fixing things. And that's going to take a lot of effort from parents. So look, if you know somebody who's in engineering or manufacturing, ask them, hey, how are you playing with your kids at home? So I met a guy yesterday. He brought his 10-year-old daughter here.
Okay,
She knows how to CNC machine. She's 10 years old.
Fantastic.
So AMT is actually going to interview her because I called her out on the main stage.
Okay.
And she just has her own business plan and everything on how to make these smaller yo-yos.
At 10.
Yeah, at 10. So kudos to that dad for actually teaching her how to make these skills. And he's like, I'm not going to always be here to change her tire.
Yep.
Like, I want her to know how to do that. So he's teaching her those skills. And normally women didn't get that opportunity. So making those adjustments, I think, is going to be a huge help.
My daughter had a college internship this last summer doing data science work at a precision machining company in Southeast Wisconsin. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
not just an advocate for these careers. I'm living it out in my own family as well. Is the way that the way that young women make career decisions, do they make those decisions different than boys do, or do they make them the same way?
I think it's different because guys and girls think differently.
Right.
But I think there's also a guidance issue. So, for example, I went through high school, and because I tested well in English, I was supposed to be an English teacher, which is not something I wanted to do.
Our producer was an English major in
Yeah.
college.
So that wasn't something that I wanted to do. I just happened to fall on professional and technical writing, and I
Right.
fell in love with it, and that's what
Yeah.
I was good at. But I did like making things with my hands, but my counselors always guided me to do something with English and not something that involved creativity with my hands. So I feel like we need to start taking down some of those limitations and readjusting, okay, just because they're good at this, what else could they be good at, and how can they combine those skills? And it really starts with having a conversation with these kids and learning about what they're passionate about. We need to start listening to them more instead of assuming what they are supposed to be good at. So testing, the way that schools are setting up testing, I don't necessarily agree with.
Right.
Because I think that's setting up boundaries for them. We just need to really pay attention to what they want and what they love to do.
And it all starts, as you say, with a conversation. We are having a great conversation today with Meaghan Ziemba, the host of Mavens of Manufacturing. Now, Meaghan, you've already touched on a couple of the really interesting things that you've seen here at IMTS, the panel that you served on, the 10-year-old girl who has her own little machining company making yo-yos. So expound on that a little bit. We're at the largest industrial trade show in the Western Hemisphere. It happens every other year, the even years here in Chicago, Illinois. What are some of the interesting things that you've seen here while at IMTS?
So one of the booths has a lunar habitat that they created, which I thought was really interesting. Fanic's huge robotic arm that's carrying that car
It's
around
awesome, isn't it?
is always catching my attention.
Yep.
I did talk to a CNC machine company where they are creating sort of like this 6-circle spindle rotation so that they can actually machine 6 smaller parts together at once. They're able to do up to 8 parts at once. So it's a different kind of concept versus your traditional CNC machining. And then I hear there's an additive manufacturing printer around here somewhere that's printing out chocolate. I've yet to find it.
Absolutely.
So I'm on a mission to find that. But
well, when you find it, bring one back for me.
I will,
that
absolutely.
sounds
But I think because we were in isolation for 4 years and haven't been back here, I think there's a sense of passion and collaboration, which has been different from past years. Everybody wants to help each other out, and
Agreed.
everybody wants to be together and have handshakes and hugs. So I think that's really energizing the sector, and everybody's like, yeah, we got to fix this problem because this is a great sector to be in.
handshakes, hugs, energy,
Yeah.
collaboration. That's what IMTS is all about. That's what this week has been all about for me. Meaghan, you talk with so many interesting people, and I know you think so much about the world of education, what inspires people, what's important, and so I'm really looking forward to your answer to the last question that we ask every single guest here on the Tech Ed Podcast, and that is, if you had one piece of advice for a high school sophomore, what's that advice?
Go for it. Don't be afraid. Just go for it. You're gonna fail, obviously, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means there's something better. So just keep going. Go for it. Don't be afraid to ask questions and take risks. Not dangerous risks, but take risks.
Go for it and take risks. Meaghan is an absolute example of that, and the risk that she's taken, the going for it that she has done in creating Mavens of Manufacturing. You're a woman of action, calling more and more girls, young women, and women of all ages to the world of industry and manufacturing. Thanks so much for living out that mission. You're doing incredible work.